Brainstormkid Story Level 3 Holiday Project Christmas Story. Christmas was just around the corner, and Jack and Stacy were starting to get very excited. They both had already written their wish list to Santa Claus and put them in envelopes and addressed to the North Pole. This was very exciting, and both Jack and Stacy only wanted one thing: brand new bicycles. Jack wasn't as excited as Stacy though. "I'm not sure if anything will happen, Stacy. I bet we just get the same old presents." "No way, Jack. Santa will come through for us. We've been good." Jack shook his head and went to make hot cocoa. Stacy followed him into the kitchen. "We've been on a few adventures now, and I know it will impress Santa," Stacy said. "Yeah, but how could he know that? We didn't tell him that in our letter," Jack said. "Well, he just knows," Stacy shouted, crossing her arms in protest. After the cocoa was ready, Jack handed a cup to Stacy, and they went to sit by the fireplace. The night was very cold, and the windows were covered in crystals from the snow freezing against the glass. The fireplace was burning so brightly they couldn't see themselves in the window. Suddenly, Jack set his mug of cocoa down and pointed at the window. "I saw something. A face, a very tiny face, Stacy." They both sprung out from the couch and peered out the window. Outside was only snow and darkness. "I think you might be getting a bit too excited, Jack," Stacy said, though she kept looking out the window. "Maybe you're right, Stacy," Jack said, settling back into the couch. "Whoa!" Stacy shouted, as a small rounded face with pink cheeks and a red hat was looking right at her through the window, its face pressed firmly against the glass. Stacy stepped back a foot, but the face was still there. Small round eyes peering this way and that. "Jack, look, an elf!" Stacy screamed, pointing at the window. As Jack turned to look, the elf's face ducked below the window, but not before Jack got a quick look. Where did he go? He wondered. Then a loud noise happened at the fireplace. The fire was gone and smoke was everywhere. In the dim light, they saw a tiny person, the elf, sitting on the top of the logs. His face was covered in soot. "That usually goes better for Santa," the elf said, his voice high-pitched like a small child's. He patted himself down and bits of ashes went everywhere. Then he stepped out and walked up to Stacy and Jack, who were almost silent in amazement. "You must be Jack and Stacy," the elf began. "I've been sent here to find out if you're on the naughty list or nice list." The elf wiped at his face till the rosy cheeks were shining once again. His tiny body was dressed in green and red, and his shoes ended in curls. "Doesn't Santa know already?" Stacy asked, amazed that she was seeing a real elf. "Well, normally yes, but you see, you two have been in a lot of adventures, and we aren't sure about anything with you," the elf exclaimed. "That's not fair," said Jack. "Santa should know. Why would he send you here?" Then he snapped his fingers, and the fireplace roared to life. Soon there was a blue cloud around the fire, and it looked like snow and small huts bathed in the colors of Christmas. This is a gate to the North Pole. If you want to prove yourself, you need to come with me now. Having said that, the elf leaped through the portal in the fireplace, disappearing instantly. Jack, we have to follow him now, Stacy shouted, diving through the portal and vanishing before Jack's eyes. Not much choice now anyway, he grumbled and went headfirst into the fireplace. Suddenly, his face was very cold. He looked around and saw colorful buildings and snow everywhere. Jack, you made it, Stacy said, grabbing his hand and helping him stand up in the snow. I don't know where this is, but it feels a lot like Christmas. It does, Jack said, agreeing. As he looked around, he looked at the sky where the colors danced in a mixture of green and blue, like a blanket covering the heavens. The sky is beautiful here, Jack exclaimed. It's the Aurora Borealis, Stacy shouted, pointing and looking at the dancing lights. Ahem! In front of them was the elf, nearly half covered in snow, holding his arms together, waiting. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Elf, Stacy said. I was just amazed to be here. It's okay, Stacy, but you need to keep up with me now. We have to find out if you're naughty or nice, the elf said, walking away from them down a small path in the snow. The snow sparkled white in front of Jack and Stacy's eyes, making everything seem dreamlike. As they moved through the snowy landscape, they saw all sorts of buildings. Some were just houses, but others looked like huge factories. There was a pen full of reindeer, and everywhere you looked, the lights of Christmas were glistening off the snow. The factory buildings had frosted windows, and Jack peered inside one of them. He saw elves moving around very quickly as they worked on assembling toys. The machines seemed to move as if they were dancing, and the whole building felt festive and fun. Another building looked like a restaurant. Inside, they could see elves eating huge plates of pancakes covered in syrup. Then they walked by a stall. There was an elf who had plates of cookies, shaped like snowflakes and covered in glowing sugar. Can we at least have one? Asked Stacy. The elf nodded his head, and they both grabbed a cookie. It was better than anything they had ever tasted. One more stall was past the cookies, and it had a big steaming bats. As they came close to it, the elf who was stirring saw them and grabbed 2 mugs and poured them both a hot beverage. It was a hot cocoa, but somehow better than they had ever had. They both thanked the elf and moved on. Finally, they came to a place just outside the village. Where are we? Asked Jack. The elf turned his head and pointed a bit further down from the village. There were 2 slopes curved down and away. One was higher than the other. This is basically a ride. It should be fun. But the truth is, it only worked for elves so far. We were hoping to entertain children with it. I wish you too can test it out, the elf said, gesturing for them to go down to it. Why didn't you say so sooner? Said Stacy. It looks like a roller coaster of ice. Stacy ran as fast as she could to the first slope and slid down the hill till it started turning up and then, slowly, she started to slide back down from where she came. "Please, be careful!" yelled the elf, not able to follow them with his tiny legs. Jack climbed back to the top of the higher slope. "Let me try," said Jack, running fast as well. This time, as he hit the bottom of the slope, he went so fast that he went across the next slope, gliding into the air for a moment. "Wow, Jack, how did you manage to get that far?" Stacy asked. "Just physics. Remember, we learned it from the roller coaster project," Jack said. "Yeah, that was fun," Stacy agreed. "We'd better get back to the village. I'm getting a little sore." They walked for quite a way up the slick slope, finally getting back into the village. The elf was there. "I had to come ahead, of course, so you couldn't meet someone special," the elf exclaimed, almost dancing in the light of the snow. "Really, we wanted you to come and test our new sled track. But even without a sled, it seems like it might work with a bit of fixing," the elf said. "We had fun, didn't we?" Jack said. "Well, at least you did. You went all the way up to the next hill," said Stacy. "But I guess I had fun too," she said and laughed. "Exactly," said the elf. "And believe me, Santa definitely noticed our experiment. In fact, I think I hear him coming." Jack and Stacy looked behind themselves. From the village, they could see a man walking towards them, huge and all dressed in red. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The massive man with a great white beard came up and patted them both on the head. The elf looked behind him and pointed back to where they had come from. "I think it's time for you to go home before Christmas." They all walked along the path back to where they had come from. Jack and Stacy were stunned and didn't know what to say. As they had almost come back to the fireplace entrance, a massive sound bellowed from the man. "Ho, ho, ho!" Before they knew it, the elf helped them back through the entrance into their home. In a few hours, their parents found them, with the cups of cocoa nearby, sleeping near the fireplace. Soon, they were off to bed, wondering if they would get what they really wanted from Santa. They both had just the feeling that they might.